Hey guys, I want to tell you about my story on how a podcast failed. This was about 4 or 5 years in the making, and my friend and I were looking at some podcasts, like the Cold Ones and Joe Rogan, just to name a couple. He said to me that making a podcast was a great idea and that we should jump on the wagon while podcasts were still new, so there wouldn't be much competition. I agreed because to me the idea of a podcast sounded great. We got a name, and my friend had a binder full of ideas that would give us a head start on the up and coming competition. We both lived at home at the time. I was a full time baker, and he just finished high school, sitting on Centrelink benefits for a small income of money. He was always sleeping through the day because he stayed up at night, which left no time to work on the podcast. As he was getting up, I was going to sleep because I usually had to work the next morning. As time went by, we'd talk less and less about it until one day his mother came in and told us that she found a place out at her friend's house, which was just out of town. So we could do the podcast there for free. So I started buying equipment and going out there and setting up a studio to record in, but it took ages for him to come out to help with it. He would just put it off. He was beginning to drink heavily and it became an addiction for him. His mum was getting tangled up in drugs and in dangerous people that surrounded them. She always needed money, so he'd give his whole paycheck that he got from Centrelink to her. And he was becoming more depressed by the day because of this. I always thought to myself, it's okay, I'll just wait until he moves out, because he always said he was going to move out. People came in and out of his house. He'd always say to me, my house is like a halfway house. All these scum coming in and out. And I told him to move out already because it was pretty bad. Anyway, she eventually got kicked out by the bank because she couldn't keep up with the mortgage. And he went to live with his father. We had to get all the podcast stuff out of the room we were in because the owner didn't want us there anymore. I don't know why. Anyway, we took the equipment to his father's for the time being. He was less depressed there, and I finally asked him again if he would like to work on the podcast, but he still put it off. I finally had enough, and I didn't talk about it much anymore after that, and I just hung out instead. Our friendship quickly faded, and he became more and more aggressive to me on social media. I'd almost call it bullying, actually. I had enough, so I cut him off without much of an explanation and I moved on with my life. To this day, about $3,000 worth of equipment I mostly bought is sitting in his room. I basically gave it to him anyway. I just don't want to speak another word to him, honestly. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did, telling my story, really getting it off my chest. I hope you subscribe, and see you again soon.